Hey, welcome to Unfuck Your Mind, where the conversations are real, the language is uncensored, and the perspectives are unapologetically Daniel's and mine. Some of our episodes might ruffle a few feathers, and that's okay. We are not here to preach or convert. We are just sharing our own messy, honest experiences in hopes that it helps someone feel a little less alone. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And remember, your journey is yours, and we respect that. And we also request the same respect in return. Do you ever feel like everything around you just feels off? Conversations feel empty, your friendships don't hit the same, and you're constantly questioning what the hell is going on with you. What if we told you that may not be depression? It actually could be the first sign that you are about to level up. Let's take Jim Carrey, for example. Years ago, he spoke openly about his intense spiritual shift. When the fame, the money, and even the success stopped making sense, he said, depression is your body saying, I don't want to be this character anymore. That off feeling was his soul outgrowing his old identity. And instead of falling apart, he leaned in, evolved, and chose to wake up. He woke up. So, in today's episode, we're talking about the number one sign that you're on the edge of transformation and how that weird, uncomfortable, almost haunting feeling is actually the doorway to your next level. This is the space where you either shrink or you shift. The choice is yours. So I say, let's talk about how to shift. So when your old self or life doesn't fit anymore, let's do this, Daniel.
Well, a few things
This is good
starting out
stuff.
is first of all is like it very much is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
When it's leveling up, that's not automatic. That is something you have to choose because a lot of people choose the opposite. A lot of people will get stuck in that rut. They say, okay, this is a comfortable job, comfortable relationship, comfortable, friendships, comfortable, whatever. You know, I'm comfortable sitting on the couch. I'm comfortable eating like shit. I'm comfortable not exercising. I'm comfortable, you know, never challenging my relationships. I'm comfortable never, going to the same job every day. And yeah, it's and I want to amend something there because and I get why it's left out, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Of
But
course you are.
when when Jim Carrey when Jim Carrey made that statement, um, and he's pretty passionate about this topic because I've watched some of his interviews about this because he talks about how I wished everybody in the world would get as much money as they want and as much fame as they want, and they could see that that will not make them happy. That will not be
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling. And what he said about depression, he said, depression is the exact quote that I heard him say was depression is your body saying, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play this character anymore.
That
And,
sounds more appropriate.
well, I know that's kind of a bold statement, but it's meant to be that way because I fully agree. I think a lot of times, and just because we have to, preface this with this, we're not doctors. So I'm not making a
Right.
diagnosis or a cure or anything stupid like that. So don't take that. But just take this as my opinion, my right opinion. Anyway, but I think a lot of things that we talk about that we struggle with, whether it's anxiety, depression, stress, um, has more to do with the shit we're avoiding than it does with the actual symptom like depression, anxiety, panic attacks, things like that. Me personally, I know a huge source of my anxiety, frustration, things like that, has been in those moments where I avoid having those tough conversations, has been in those moments where I'm avoiding certain decisions. Depressive thoughts is when I know I need to make a change and I'm not. So I would say a lot of the times, if not, you know, all the time in some degree, is a lot
I
of
know that
these. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I know that we're just two humans out of a billion people in this world, or however many people are in the world, but I can, in confidence, I can back you up with that is the same experience I have because there have been times when, in reflection, there have been times where I literally walking around the house, like, why do I feel this way? This doesn't make sense. Like, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Why do I feel this way? And so when that happens, I have to dig deeper. Am I exercising the way I need to? Because movement creates that energetic movement in your body. So it's not just physical, it's all tied together. Do I need to level up something? Am I bored? A lot of times it's like boredom. Like, this is it. Every time I'll hear myself say that, this is it. This is what life is. And then I'm like, oh shit, I'm just bored. I need to create something new. I need to take another step forward. I need to do something that challenges me and gets me out of my comfort zone. There's just so many times I can look back and it takes me a little bit, but when I talk myself through it, I put all those puzzle pieces together and I'm like, fuck yeah, this is it. I was bored. I can't handle being stale. I need to thrive and grow and push myself.
Well, and I fully agree because there's plenty of studies out now that are attesting to the medical studies that are attesting to the to that same idea that pushing yourself in exercise, whether it's cardio, strength training, whatever the case may be, all those combined, really, um, that those people who work out and do some form of cardio on a very consistent basis struggle with depression a lot less, struggle with anxiety a lot less, stress a lot less. All those things are just at a very low level in their lives. And even though look, we all have, sometimes life is just an uphill battle, right? But there's that old saying, right? And I won't say it's a true 100% of the time, but it's a good saying for probably a majority of the time. Is how you do one thing is how you do everything. Now I say that because one of the things that I've learned from, just like, this is the reason why I'm so passionate about health and fitness. It's not because I'm just trying to get in good shape or have a nice looking body or anything like that right there. It's actually because, the biggest reason is because how it affects you mentally, is how it affects your life decisions. Because when you learn to push yourself through past your limits, whether it's in cardio, whether it's, specifically, I lift weights, and in lifting weights, there's something called muscle failure. And on your working sets, you push your reps into that muscle failure range. And you guys have heard me talk about this on previous episodes, but you push yourself to muscle failure. What does that do? That tells your body that we have to get stronger. That's a level up in that sense. And so when you're putting yourself through that hell, because I'm gonna tell you something, it's not easy, and it damn sure don't feel good in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the moment your muscles are burning, you because I've had those times where I'm just like, this sucks and I just want to quit, but I don't, because I understand what's on the other side of this. And so when life throws you challenges, you've started to build up that mentality of, when it gets hard, when it feels like I'm going to fall, when it feels like I'm going to fail, muscle failure, when it feels like I'm going to fail, keep pushing, keep going. Because one thing that I've learned early on in my strength training is that first feeling of muscle failure is not actual muscle failure. Now I know kind of what that feels like now, so I understand it. But when I first started really strength training, I noticed something that I would push out another 1 or 2 reps, sometimes 3 reps after I thought I was up to that point of muscle failure. I would push myself even harder. And I would get another, 1, 2, 3 clean reps before I actually hit muscle failure to where I just couldn't, whatever the case may be, couldn't get the dumbbells or the bar up or whatever the case may be. But what that taught me is that,
Leveling up,
yeah,
leveling
well,
up.
it taught me that a lot of times my mind is especially if you're not used to that, your mind is a lot more quicker to give up than your body is. And so when you notice that mentality, that's where you know there's that disconnect. That's where you know that you're in a place of comfort and not a place of transformation. You're not in a
But
place of growth, you're in a place of comfort.
here's the thing, like your body wants to keep you safe, so it wants to crave comfort. There's just parts of the natural human being that,
Oh, your mind, yeah, yeah.
yeah, it wants to keep you safe. But then there's also this next part, and then that's where things get really confusing, because then all of a sudden you just don't feel, there's something lacking, and that's where that thought of depression comes in, which, could be, couldn't be. I mean, it, like we said, we're not doctors, we don't diagnose, but so it's really paying attention to that level of comfort. Some comfort is okay, but when you start feeling stale and you start feeling like, what the hell is wrong with me, that's when you want to start examining, like, yeah, it's fine to push through. There's no risk here other than my own fear of failure for the most part, right? Because in failure, it's not actually a failure, it's a learning opportunity. The only real failure is if you actually just completely give up and don't try at all.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't know. It's, to me, it's so intriguing because, so here's the truth. Thank you, Daniel, for picking this topic, because this morning he's like, "What's our topic for today?" I was like, "Yeah, I was wondering that all morning so far," because I have been so busy and I've been trying to be patient with myself to heal. I'm finally doing pretty good, but um I was like, "Yeah, I don't even know. Let me go look if I have anything written down." And he's like, "What if we do this?" I'm like, "Oh, on point." And then I started reflecting on all of my things, and I don't know, it just, so thank you for making, he never messages me hardly ever and says, "What are we talking about today?" Usually I think I'm more on it, but he never does. And I'm like, I have no fucking clue. So thank
Leveling
you for
up.
choosing the topic. This is so,
Timely.
it's just yeah, that it needs to be, yeah, it's just on point.
I think a lot of
So
times the things that we talk about and put out in the podcast is the stuff that we're going through.
yeah, yeah,
And
pretty much.
you made mention of something there is that, you know, oftentimes when we are struggling with complacency and just being comfortable, the answers we seek is in the thing that we're avoiding. And so one of the things that I've seen, I have struggled with my own self, but since getting comfortable in that place and being okay with that, is that having those conversations that we're avoiding. And this could be those that are closest to us, is oftentimes the usual, if you will. Um, because that could be like a spouse, That could be specifically like, a boss at work. That could be a close friend. It could be a family member. Um, because there's often an uncomfortable conversation that needs to be had. A lot of times we avoid those out of out of fear, honestly.
Confrontation.
Yeah, that it is. It's a fear of confrontation and a fear of rejection. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
that oh, they're going to reject me. They're not going to be my friend anymore. I'm going to get fired from my job. And you know, I have a very unique strategy for that. Who gives a shit? Okay.
I could see that coming on your face. I was
Yeah, I
like,
mean, but I'm just to that point now where it's like, you guys have heard me talk about this in previous podcast episodes. If you haven't heard me talk about this, you're not listening enough. So stop it. Start listening more. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, no, but it is that idea that I went through a lot of personal growth over the last 3 years since kind of stumbling onto hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, which is a basically a coaching type of thing, learns how to teach you how the mind works and so forth. And since kind of stumbling into this, I have just went through a ton of transformation in my own life, a lot of personal growth.
that's why we met because you fucking decided to level up. Welcome home, bitch.
Yeah, still waiting on you. Anyway, um,
That was good. It just flew out of my mouth. I couldn't
yeah,
resist.
I mean, I didn't. I'm used to the abuse.
Continue. I couldn't resist.
So, but yeah, so going through that, going through that personal growth and that leveling up, and one of those big things for me was learning to love myself first. And with that came the idea that I had to be okay with having those confrontational conversations. They were like, hey, you're pushing a boundary, you need to stop. And then if it continued, I had to understand that you got to love yourself enough that you're willing to be, well, I'm, very, very aggressive with your boundary if they persisted on continuing to cross it. And I never, didn't start out that way. Obviously, just speaking it first, but this is one of the things, and we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's something I still see a lot of people struggle with. And that is when people say certain things, not much more everything. Sometimes people are just people, right? But when people say certain things that are really degrading or almost attacking and stuff like that, to kind of come back with that and be like, hey, look, you said this, I didn't like it. If we have to have this conversation again, it's going to be there's going to be another notch there that I'm going to, and I've had to do that with some people in my life. I've just had to say some things like, hey, look, you know, this is what, you said or did this. And, I just didn't like it. And there's been a few of those times where people like persisted, these specific people would persist and continue to push that boundary. And I would just get to a point like, listen, you're going to stop doing that or we're going to have a real bad problem because, you know, I'm not dealing with this shit. And at that point, I've got, and look, again, it doesn't always go here. And, and I would recommend that it not. I should say, I would rather that it not. But there have been a couple of conversations where I've been like, listen, if you're going to continue to do this, and then I'm going to have less and less, communication with you to the point to where I just don't give a shit if you're in my life or not, because you're not going to pull me down in your shit. You got problems, that's fine. You got problems, I'll help. I can walk with you through them, but you're not going to drag me with you. Because at that point, I'm just like, I'm too good for that. I mean, that's just it. I mean, if you want me to help you walk out of them, that's one thing. But if you want to just pull me down with you, a lot of times people, and look, there's been friends and things like that that I've lost over the years, and it's not because I'm thinking I'm better than anybody else, but because I understand that I got to respect myself and love myself more than that. That if I,
Unfortunately, we live in a society where people don't understand, and I was guilty of this too before I did this for a living, but people don't understand the language they use and the impact it has on the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, but a lot of times it's a subconscious mind. Something will be said and then people will have this like bad heavy feeling and they don't even fully understand why. And then a lot of times it's brushed off because, well, this is just how people talk. And there's a reason if you have that bad heavy feeling, there's a reason it's there. It's not a healthy statement. So
yeah, and sometimes you just got to be, because this is one of those things about leveling up is when if you notice yourself just getting quieter and quieter in the same circle of people that you've always talked with, that's probably because their conversation are not conducive to your next level. That the conversations they're used to having are the conversations that you no longer care about, that are past tense for you. And a lot of those things are, complaining, whining, I wish that, I could have, I should have, maybe one day, those conversations. And because again, I've been there in the sense that I'm not about that one day, or oh, I wished I would, or maybe, or stuff like that. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, just try it now and see what happens. If if it doesn't work out, well, I'll learn something in the process. But you have those people now that are more, um there are people in your life that are just, you said it a minute ago, that are comfortable in safety.
some people are.
And that's their decision, but it doesn't have to be yours.
I say if you're comfortable in that safety zone and you don't have a drive for anything else and you feel happy and there's like no signs of that feeling of depression or sadness or lack of, maybe you're good to go. I mean, not everybody is here to have that next level drive. But if you are feeling some of these feelings, like going back to before when I was talking about, feeling comfortable and then how do you know when to make that next shift to level up? The key is to know about who you are, what makes you tick. You really have to ask yourself a lot of like powerful questions. Like, is there a reason for me to feel this way? Do I have all the things in my life that fulfill my soul and my needs? If you don't know who you are or what makes you tick, you're going to have a harder time deciphering between like, is this actually a depressive problem? Do I need to go in and be seen? Or is my soul just lacking that next level of something that will just fill me with passion? Like, you have to know who you are and how you work, and it's a journey. None of this is an overnight thing. Like, for years, like, I can look back way back when and think, hey, I actually probably wasn't depressed at that moment. I just didn't know that I was craving something bigger, and my soul was screaming for something more profound, or, I mean, I didn't really know myself as well, obviously, as I do now. Now I'm like, oh shit, we're bored. We need to find something to do. Not like I don't do anything. I'm way, way more busy than, but it's just like, we need to find that next level. What can I create? What can I make? What does that mean? Is it business related? Is it personal life related? Is it hobby related? Like one of the things in my hobby, like, so I do community theater. I love my little community theater that I belong to. I love it. But there's also this part of me that's like craving to level up more. I want to go to a bigger theater. I want to explore some of the things that happen in the bigger groups. Okay, well, I'm not going to lie, I'm scared shitless to do it. But it's on my brain so that that leveling up has started. And guess what? I get to choose when I take action. I get to choose what that looks like. And right now I'm not doing that because my youngest daughter's graduating high school and that's what I'm focused on. But it's there, it's in motion, but I get to decide when I'm going to choose to make that next level up and what that looks like and where I go. So, and that's only because I know myself. I know how I work and I can recognize these things now. So,
Well, and
knowing
that's
yourself, it all begins with you.
that's an important point that I definitely want to hit on as well.
I always make important points and then he hits on them and I love it because I'm brilliant. I
Anyway,
really don't think that way.
back to the really real world. Um,
But I had to say it because just sometimes the look on his face, the feedback I get. Continue on, Mr. Daniel.
well,
Y'all need to
because
watch YouTube. It's quite
I
entertaining.
know, right? Because you said something that was very important about leveling up, and let's talk about what leveling up is not. And this may poke a few people, okay? And if it does, just understand that it's for your benefit. It's for my
Ruffling
pleasure, but it is for your benefit.
feathers. Ruffling feathers. It's what we do best. Actually,
Well,
I don't know if we do because people seem to love all of our stuff.
well, and I think that's the reason why. It's because we're willing to have those conversations. Um,
Yeah.
but first thing is what leveling up is not. Leveling up is not talking about your dreams. Now, talking about it is is a good place to start. Not saying it's not. Putting it out there is a good place to start. There's that idea of manifestation. If I just speak it, then it'll just magically fall in my lap. Well, I can just tell you that's a big load of horseshit. Okay. And so
I second that.
and so the first thing is, sharing your dream with everybody is not always productive. There's two reasons for that. One is because when you talk about it, there's going to be that kind of that dopamine hit. There's going to be that release, that excitement that you're going to feel. And that's going to make you feel good about it. Okay. And when that makes you feel good about it, understand that that's going to fade into the background. That ain't going to last very long. That's not it. It's a good place to start. It's a good place to get geared up, right? Another thing about that is don't share your dream with everybody because not everybody's a dreamer.
They
Okay.
will put your fire out quicker than you can imagine because
Yeah.
they cannot see what you can see and they're going to shut you down so quick, not due to ill intent most of the time, but because they can't see your dream and it's going to sound crazy.
Well, most of the time it's going to be the idea that people are more worried about your safety than they are about your
Mm-hmm.
um than they are about your dream. And which something else you said a minute ago is don't confuse happiness with safety because there is a difference. Let's leave that there. Anyway, um, so I'll tell you something else and this is something that's very convenient for us today, is watching reels, watching TikToks, listening to motivational podcasts, all those things. Okay. those things will produce a nice little fake dopamine hit, have all these little cause the brain to release all these feel good chemicals, get you fired up and think you're doing something because you're thinking about doing something. Thinking about doing something, talking about doing something, and then even watching doing something is not doing something. Okay. I'll even say this: buying shit is not doing something. Buying exercise equipment, buying a good cookbook. I'm not even going to hit on this right here because I think this is it's gonna piss everybody off if I can. Even even
I
even
haven't
in
heard
the
anything yet that would, but
what
maybe we're on the same mindset. So keep going.
right, that's probably the reason why. But even hypnosis, like I sell hypnosis audios, right? I have a store and everything's like, okay, here's the thing: you can buy that shit all day long, but if you don't use it, hypnosis is a tool. It's not a magic pill. It's not pixie fairy dust that you just sprinkle it and all your problems go away. Hypnosis makes it probably 1,000 times easier as somebody who's used it. But this is something I've even noticed just, in our field in and of itself as a hypnotist and you and, even in the field of hypnosis, I've had, you know, I says how to be. I've seen a lot of people who struggle with things, and I'm just like, and kind of have that mindset of like, I don't really know how to get over this. And I'm not saying again, not looking, I'm talking about perfection. I'm saying like you understand what we do, right? And so like some of the most basic behaviors. And I'm like, now again, I've personally used, even self hypnosis. Okay, just the physical part of it is, again, I'm like 16 to 18% body fat. I strength train. I have abs. Shit, and I never had abs. Okay, all that, the consistency of that, because I eat like 90% clean foods. Okay, 90% of my calories comes from clean, nutrient dense whole foods. I hit my protein goal every day. I just all the things, right? But and again, it's not about perfection, but what I'm saying is that the only it's a tool you have to use. You have to take action with the stuff that's in front of you. Again, I'm all for watching stuff that gives you ideas, things like that. Even Instagram reels, TikToks. I create content myself, and it's all great. I enjoy looking at it as much as anybody, but I enjoy looking at it from the mindset. Well, even okay, let's just be transparent here. Even this episode, I had the idea from watching an Instagram reel, and I was like, hey, this would be a good thing to make a podcast about. As a matter of fact, I actually accidentally sent this to somebody who listens pretty often, Corinne, you know, uh, lady lives in Hawaii. Love Corinne. She's awesome. But even she had said that to me because I accidentally sent, I don't even know how, I didn't even bring out her name, but I accidentally sent her the reel that I was actually, that I did send to somebody else, but for some reason sent it to her as well. Don't even know why. But even she said, she messaged me back and we was kind of talked about it. I told her I sent it by accident or whatever. She said, this might be a good podcast episode. and I was kind of already on that wavelength, and I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. And so, that's, and that came from an Instagram reel. But again, I just didn't watch it, consume it, and be like, oh yeah, that was fun. It felt good. I took that and I let it produce something that's creative. Again, we're talking about, the idea was sparked from that reel, and now we're creating a podcast about it. Because again, taking action on those things. Because here's the thing about even the weight loss space. Okay, the weight loss space is full of all kinds of, that, well, I'll say it's full of, but there's good information out there. Now, some of it's just absolute waste of time and just total horseshit. But there are some good people out there that are just sharing some of their great stuff. And but the only reason why that it's good is because it works. And the only way that it works is if you use it.
Yes.
Just like hypnosis audios or whatever it is that you consume, you know, and that's a part of that leveling up is it's a choice. You have to lean into that. And as I've heard it said, you have to kind of sometimes lean into the suck.
Yeah, that's true. So like if you want to level up and it's like with a goal and you don't know how to get there, so you want to connect manifestation with leveling up, there's some key points here. Definitely you do have to take some action, but if you take some time, like actually Jim Carrey did this before he became famous when he wrote himself the, I think it was the $1 million check. Was it million or I think it was a million. He did this too. But you want to think about specifically what you're looking for. And you want to just take time to visualize. He would go to this specific place and do his visualization. So when you visualize, you also want to feel the feelings and allow that to run through your body as if it's already yours and you're waiting for it. It's not about getting angry when it doesn't come. It's not about pushing to make it happen fast. It's about stepping into this calm, peaceful place and just seeing it as your truth, owning it and accepting it, using that visualization, tapping into the feelings. Those feelings are so crucial. And just knowing that you deserve it and then being patient as it comes. There is an audio that I've been listening to regularly. I think it's by Louise Hay. And she talks about doing this visualization and tapping into those feelings 3 times a day, only for like 5 or 10 minutes, 3 times a day, like morning, noon, evening. This is going to program your system to actually really believe that, oh, I do deserve this and this is mine, and allow you to step into it. So know that you do deserve it. Know that you are worth it and you can really have all the things. You just have to be willing to step into it. And to be honest, Daniel and I, well, I shouldn't really speak for Daniel, but I'm exploring with this too. Like and it's really fun. If you look at this whole all the things that we talk about actually as a journey, it's part of your life. Stop thinking about end goals and start stepping into the journey. Your leveling up is going to just become more and more dominant. Learn about who you are, learn about how you work. That is the key to everything because everything literally starts with you. And how can you do any of the things if you don't even know who you are or how you work, what you like, what you don't like? Simple, basic things like, I love this mug. It makes me feel so happy. Sorry to the people that are listening and not watching, but hey, things like
Okay,
that.
great.
I know I love mugs. I love little coffee mugs. They make me happy. Sounds something so simple, but when I wake up in the morning, I actually get excited. What mug am I going to use today? Which one do I feel like? These little tiny things matter, all the way from the littlest things to the biggest things. Tap into those feelings and the visualization and own them.
Well,
Patience and
and
faith.
that's the part of the hypnosis process, right?
Mhm.
We know this, but part of
Yeah.
that hypnosis process is like we get you into that place, right? We kind of guide you into that trance like state, but ultimately we're just kind of a guide pulling up your imagination pulling up those feelings. And oftentimes it's those big three, right? The language of the subconscious mind, which is, what you see, hear, and feel. And so we'll kind of pull on those, because what that does, that tells your mind to actually start looking. There's something called your RAS, reticular activating system. And what that is that, well, the most common example of this is, and I know we've all probably have on some level done this. You buy, let's say, like you bought a new car, new to you anyway, and you bought it because, like, oh, I never see these anywhere, not in this color, not this model. And then as soon as you drive it off the lot, there's 30 of them that passes you on the way home. Same exact model, color, everything else. You're like, they just bought that shit because I did. I'm a trendsetter. No, that's actually your reticular activating system, because those things have always been there, but your mind deletes, distorts, and generalizes all the information coming in. And you're processing more information than you could possibly imagine. But the point is that stuff, that particular car was never important to you before. So your mind just deleted it out of your conscious awareness. What happens is when your mind categorizes something as important because of how it made you feel, specifically what you were talking about, mm-hmm. because the visualization of it, how it made you feel, things that you heard, whatever the case may be. Those three big ones, right? Those that's the unconscious, the language of the subconscious mind. When your subconscious mind deems those as important, it gets put in a different folder, if you will. All of a sudden, and then that all the time, when it gets put in that different folder, it always brings it to your conscious awareness. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're looking for. This is what we're, and that's why you start noticing that. Now, the reason why this is important is because when you're leveling up, if you learn how to put what's most important to you into that important folder, this is why visualization, when you bring the subconscious language, again, what you see, hear, and feel, when you bring the imagination into that, it basically tells your subconscious mind, we have to look for every one of these opportunities. We have to start focusing on this. That's what she's talking about with it. I just want to explain it, but I nerd out on this a little bit sometimes. But again, it's the idea that, and doing it 3 times a day. 3 is not the magic number. 2 is not the magic number. 7 is not the magic number. Okay. What that does is, all that does is that puts it in a place of repetition so that your subconscious mind is like, oh, this must be important.
It keeps it active.
Yeah, this must be vitally important. So let's instead of just deleting this out of conscious awareness like we used to do, let's prioritize this into conscious awareness so we can constantly be looking for opportunities. This works in both positive and negative. Because if you're always saying, shit never works out for me, I can't catch a break, things like that, your mind's going to keep looking for those opportunities to enforce that belief. But anyway, I won't get too far deep into this. But as far as that leveling up place, like you're saying, you sit back and you see that. Now, that's still not an excuse to not take action. Because if an opportunity presents itself and you don't take action on that opportunity, it eventually will pass you by.
Yes,
so
it will.
That's still a part of that. But yes, start out with the visualization, feeling that thing. That's something I did for as far as creating the body that I want. One of the things that I would visualize myself, my own self-hypnosis times, is about having abs. I would just put that out there. This is the body I want. And then I would take action on that. So, yeah, anyway. I'm going to get too far off track, but I nerd out. I would apologize, but I'm not sorry.
I love sharing stories, and I love that when I do that, how you elaborate and you just pull it into this other direction. So I don't know. I just love it. Because then that also gives me like it's usually stuff that I already know, but I love how you word it because obviously we're different people. So you word it
Yep.
different than I do. And so it shares another perspective with me, but I love it. So it's kind of important to, as you journey through this, to like kind of let go of any thoughts about the old versions that you were. And it's not because these old versions are bad or negative, because each single part of you with every phase has gotten you to a place where you are now. Every phase that you've ever lived is a part of you that has got you right here right now. So as you start to, really come into new phases in your life and push yourself there, do not beat your old self up. Do not look back and say, what the hell was I thinking? Why did I choose this? Why did I choose that? It's all part of your journey. So you want to honor all the parts of you. And if you need to, I mean, you can step aside and mourn your past self if that's something you feel like you need to do. But I personally will encourage you to celebrate your past self for getting you to a place of seeing what you need, of seeing that you want to level up, of connecting with yourself on a greater level. I mean, we can't know everything all the time. And for some reason, when we step into new phases of our life, then we look back and think, why the fuck didn't I do this sooner? Well, because you didn't know when you were on your way. So it's super important to be kind to your past life, your past self, because you don't know what you don't know until you've been exposed to it.
Oh yeah, and
So
regret and guilt, and I mean that's pointless. That shit
it's
doesn't do anything.
yeah, it's a waste of time.
It very much is, and that's and I just say I totally agree with it. I completely agree with the fact that you don't crucify that old version of you just because you're a new version, right? It's kind of like updating the software on your phone. You don't scrap the whole thing just because it's updating software, right? And
That's a
and that's
good
kind of
point.
and that's kind of like that's what happens when you're leveling up. Oftentimes you're leveling up. Well, I won't even say oftentimes. The place that you level up is going to be mindset. It's going to be your mind, because nothing changes until your mind changes. That's that's the filter of everything that you so when when you step into those conversations that don't feel like they used to, when you go to that job, it doesn't feel like you used to, when you know whatever, when those things are changing, that's because your mindset's upgrading. It's because you've had a software update. And so the same the same conversations um that used to be able to engage in easily, it's not going to feel the same. Doesn't mean those people are bad or anything like that. It just means that you're not the same.
I'm going to be a nerd. So if our mind is having a software update, does that make us robots?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking. That's
Well,
actually
because
something that's actually something I would say to you not on the podcast.
I know, right? But if you think about it, really, if you think about it, you know, the idea of a robot is born out of just a human element, because we know that the CPU, right, is the mind, because what the mind sees, the body tends to do. And how it does that is because it's all this circuitry from the mind all throughout the body. We call them nerves, nerve endings, veins, things like that, right? Are all throughout the body. So, in essence, your your mind is your central processing unit. Is you know, everything is processed through that. And so, how updated that is and how clean that is, not bogged down with a bunch of shit that you don't need, is going to determine how everything else functions inside of you and even around you, because your mind is the filter.
I
And
just
it's
need to
not.
say,
Go ahead.
this is good stuff. I ask a simple, sarcastic question. Does this mean we're all robots? And leave it to Daniel to take it nice and deep and explain why, yes, maybe we are robots, because this is why. I love it.
Well, I mean, but you think about it,
No, I do
everything.
see it all. It's just
Yeah.
like amazing how I make a sarcastic comment about us. We're robots. And he's like, well, let me tell you.
Well,
This is
and
good.
you think about everything that's created, everything that we create, humans create, is from our own internal filters. The idea of flying, the idea of even doing this, you know, we're I think we're like 800 miles apart now. I think is what it was. I thought we were more than that, but it's now like 800 miles apart.
I don't know. Something switched. It was weird. I don't know. Google
But
Maps decided to make us closer somehow. I don't
so,
know.
so whatever it was, anyway. So we're hundreds of miles apart, but yet we're having a very a good conversation live together, this many miles apart, this many hundred miles apart. And all this is born out of an internal filter that people just had an idea for. But if you look at the basis of it, and whether that's robots or whether that's computers, whatever it is, all of this has its basis out of the fact that you know man's basic desires and needs, whether that's communication, whether that's well, just whatever, right? Just whatever you think about, it's it's fascinating to me because we find a way to recreate everything that's alive, like who we are. We find a way to recreate that in digital form and so many other ways. But anyway, I'll nerd out on that too. So I'll just stop there. We're fascinating creatures. But again,
Yeah.
bringing that full circle, because we were not really created to breathe underwater. Yet we have technology that can do that. We were not created to fly through the air. Yet technology has provided that. We were not created to communicate thousands of miles apart or hundreds or thousands of miles apart. Yet technology has created that. Those things were not born out of complacency.
Right.
They
I'm
were
glad you
not
went
born
there.
in the most comfortable place you could be. They were born out of people who had an idea, saw the idea, visualization, right? Focused on it, created it, thought about it. They just were obsessed about it. They took action on it. They failed a shit ton of times at it. I can
Oh my
promise you
gosh.
that. I can promise you all the stuff that we enjoy with ease today, somebody or some your group of people or one person had an idea and just was willing to fail over and over and over and over and over again until they failed their way into success. If you take on that mindset, there's absolutely nothing that can stop you. You can achieve anything. You really can. I mean, that's not a it's not a woo woo statement. It's not a motivational statement. It's a true statement. You can achieve anything that you would want to achieve in your life.
You know, when
And
if I look back, the things that there are specific moments in my life where I was like, it was like not an option in my mind that this was going to be this or this was going to be that. In those moments, all those things, they all happened. They all came into reality. They all came fruitful. Like in all the moments where I had doubts first, and then I stepped into this place of, then it finally happened. And I can clearly see the places in my life where I might have doubts now. I'm like, I'm aware my doubts are preventing from me from leveling up. And so we're all human. So if you are having doubts, work through them because we are freaking human. Just because Daniel and I are talking about this doesn't mean that we are 1,000,000% mastered at all this stuff. We love talking about it because we're also working through it. It's powerful. Like, it's just a beautiful freaking journey. And when you look at it that way, it's so much more fun versus the deadline or the end result. Because when you get to the end result, then what? Then you're going to be bored. Got to look
Time
for
to level
something
up
else.
again.
Yep. There's no end result here because you always want to level up if that's what's in your system. That's what you want. So that's my 2 cents.
When you're created for resistance. I mean, we all are. Everybody's created for resistance. I mean, you know, just be adults here, right? But even being born is a process of resistance. The woman has to push the baby out of the birth canal, right? That's, and having been there for all four of my children, you know, that is not a, and Jamie, I'm sure you can attest to this. That is not a simple
Yeah.
process. That is not a, oh, this was easy, let's go out for lunch. Um, I mean,
No.
that is a gruesome, hard process, some more than others, right? But it is a very, there's a lot of resistance to that. There's a lot of resistance to that. You were born that way. You were created for resistance. You were created to push. You were created to grow. You were created to absolutely just smash limits that either you have believed or people have fed you your whole life. You know, you're created for that. So again, if stuff in your life just feels off, if it just feels out of place, if it just doesn't have the same appeal that it used to, that's an invitation. That's an invitation to level up. And dare I say, find a lot more excitement, because to me, again, I know we've just hit on this, but to me, it's not about the destination.
Mm-mm.
It's about that badass journey in the process. You know what I mean? It's about the adventure of going through the hard things, of deciding and becoming that person. That to me is just the absolute crazy excitement of it. So it's my two
I
cents.
mean, to be fair, I think I want to believe that anyone that truly looks back at something really hard that they had to overcome in their life can look back and be like, holy shit, I made it through that. There you go. So,
You can.
so here are some signs that you are ready to level up. One, you feel restless, bored in your usual routines. Two, you get irritated with things that you used to tolerate. Three, you crave solitude or deeper connection. And four, you feel drawn to change, but unsure what that means yet. And that's where I shared before about visualization. You can go into a place of exploring and just feeling the feelings. If you don't know exactly what it is, just start. But in reflection, as we close, here's something to sit with as you go about your day or your week. Um, what if the discomfort you're feeling isn't a sign to stop, but a sign that you're finally moving? What if the friendships that feel off, the routines that feel stale, and the thoughts that don't feel like you anymore just prove that you no longer are meant to stay small? Your next level is already calling. So the only question is, will you answer with resistance or with readiness?
Yep.
That's where knowing who you are is the key.
Well, and sitting with
So,
yourself, have a conversation with yourself, and little tip that I can give everybody is that questions are the highest form of influence.
Yes.
So sit with yourself and ask yourself questions. Really. I know it sounds weird, may sound weird. Some people may not, but ask yourself questions and ask him more like how questions and what about this do I like? What about this do I not like? Steer somewhat away from why questions because your mind is going to give you reasons to stay there. But
Yeah.
you know, it, it's like look, your mind is meant to answer any question you ask of it. So if you're saying why am I stupid? Okay, well your mind will tell you that. They'll give you the reason to be there. But so that's why I like about asking like what questions. What about this is not pleasant for me anymore? What about this conversation is boring to me? What about this job is boring to me? I've been there. I've been there recently, and still making some serious life changes in the process of making even more. And
Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. They're figuring it out as they go. That's the
that's the beauty
truth.
of it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life. Is nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
And if they
So
pretend that they are,
yeah, what you see on Instagram and what you see, look, and some of those people are just genuine, right? But some of those people are just like, some of it's just, a camera rolling. This Hollywood, okay? But some, and some of those people are just truly genuine. And they'll tell you, hey, look, I didn't have a damn clue what I wanted. I just started doing shit till I found out. you
yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
just started taking massive risks, and people are like, well, I got responsibilities and a house and car payment, and I'm not telling you not to pay that shit, but at the same time, at the end of your life, are you going to look back and think, man, I sure am glad I made all my car payments. I mean, I know it
I mean,
sounds whatever, but I'm just saying, like in the, in the grander scheme of things, what are you really going to look back on your life and think about? I'm going to tell you what you're going to look back on your life and think about because, um, you know, I think it was Bronnie Ware who did the was the either 5 or 10 top regrets of the dying, and one of those is why didn't I take more risk?
mhm. Yeah.
One of those top things is why didn't I take more risk in my life?
Risk
So
is living. It's
it
living.
is. You risk every day you wake up and breathe. Everybody's like, oh, every time you step out of your house, there's a risk. No, hell, every time you wake up, there's a risk. you know, you living in a house is a risk. Hell, life is a risk. I mean, shit. Let's just be honest. It's just,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. I'm just in that space of like, I want the adventure of life. I want to see as much as I can, do as much as I can, and go as many places as I can, and just fail as much as I can. Who cares? Like who cares really? Who cares? I mean, even doing this podcast, like I'm just I just enjoy the process. I am. I'm just enjoying it because I live most of my life scared in fear of all these people and fear of rejection and failure and success and pretty much any other fear you could think of. And now I'm like, now that I kind of move past that, I'm like, who cares? Just keep doing shit. People don't like it, they don't like it.
I love how we're on the same page with so many things.
I don't, well, it's
I
what makes
love
this
it.
work.
Yeah. Yeah. To be honest, it really is. So I think the ultimate question is, what are you going to do to level up? Are you going to level up or are you going to resist it? So,
Right.
but we appreciate you tuning in and spending your precious time with us. Remember to be good to yourself first, which will allow you to spread more love and light out into the world. Definitely be kind to your neighbors, the people you see walking past, because there's a lot of people putting on faces out there that are covering the deep down hardcore feelings of what they're actually feeling inside. So spread kindness, be kind, and be good to yourself. And thank you for tuning in and hanging out with us today.
Yeah. We definitely appreciate everybody that listens. And yeah, that's why we do what we do and take action.
Yeah.
Level up, take action. The world needs you.
Level
The
up.
world needs what you have. I mean, really, it does.
It does.
That's why we're able to do this. That's why you're able to drive around your car, talk on your cell phone, listen to this podcast, because somebody dared to take risk and dare to imagine something that had never been imagined before. Think about that for a minute.
Yes.
We definitely
Awesome.
appreciate you listening.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye bye.